Welcome to the Dean's List, engaging conversations at the intersection of entrepreneurship, artistic expression, and holistic health. Experience wellness in full color, where fashion, beauty, and art blend with body, mind, and soul. Embark on a journey that dresses your aspirations in style, paints your life with beauty, and sculpts your well-being in every dimension. This is the Dean's List, where inspiration is always in session. Welcome to the Dean's List, where we unravel the rich fabric of vitality, creativity, and business ingenuity. I'm your host, Alison Dean, and today we're stepping into a realm where craftsmanship echoes history, style harmonizes with sustainability, and entrepreneurship flourishes with purpose. Meet Babs Pisch, the visionary behind Patriae in downtown Asbury Park, New Jersey, a haven where every hand-picked item tells a story of beauty and mindful selection. This boutique is not just a store, it's a gallery showcasing the soulful work of artisans from around the globe. Join us today as we celebrate the legacy stitched into each unique piece and delve into how Patriae's dedication to artisanal beauty is a testament to living well, sustainably. Hello, Babs.
Hi, Allison. Thanks very much for that wonderful introduction.
Of course. Yeah, I'm so happy to have you. All right, so let's dig in. Your journey from a lineage of tailors and fibercraft experts in Slovakia to founding Patriae in Asbury Park, I think is fascinating. Can you share the moment that ignited your decision to, transform antique textiles into a business venture?
So, to give a little bit of background, I started Patriae long before Patriae had a name, long before I had the store. So I've had the store for 8 years, and Patriae existed in some format or another for at least a decade prior to that. Yeah. Wow. So I've been collecting the textiles themselves since I was a teenager. I started going back to Slovakia. We left when I was a child, and I started going back when I was a teenager to see family. Immediately became exposed to these textiles, started collecting them. The second I saw the first example of them, they felt extremely familiar to me and part of me and my culture. So I started collecting. I'm 45 now, so that was over 30 years ago that I've been seriously collecting these textiles. Yeah. By the time I was in my mid-20s, I had a huge collection, because at the time, these textiles had little to no value in Eastern Europe, where I was collecting them, Slovakia mainly, where I'm from. Yep. So it was, and they were abundant still. The market was not yet tapped. Okay. So I was able to get a lot of people were giving them away to me. My grandparents' friends were thrilled that they had somebody to give them to that would give them a good home and value them, etc. So I came back. I went to Slovakia almost every year since I was 12 years old, and came back with suitcases and boxes full of these textiles for years. So by my mid-20s, I had a lot, and I was living in New York City, working in the fashion industry. My parents were living on the Jersey Shore, where I now again live, and one whole room in their house was completely full from floor to ceiling. My apartment in the city was full. So at that point, prior to that time, I think I always knew that I was on a path to working with these textiles, not just collecting them. Okay. It simply made sense. But by the time I had such a big collection about 20 years ago, I knew that I had to start doing something with them right then and there. I mean, I literally could not justify acquiring anymore. And at that time, I was paying for them. People weren't giving them away to me for free anymore. So I couldn't justify buying more of them if I wasn't selling them or, lightening my load a little bit. So around that time, I made a tote bag for myself out of the textiles. And without really any plan or thought to it, I made a tote bag. I needed a tote bag. I made a tote bag. I was using it. Friends wanted tote bags then. I made tote bags for friends, giving them away, eventually charging a little bit. Friends of friends wanted them. So it grew extremely slowly and completely organically. I didn't have a website or anything. I didn't yet have any social media then myself, maybe some early form of social media, but I wasn't promoting them in any way other than using my tote bag. It continued that way for a while, growing slowly. I never really built a website. I am a bit of a Luddite. I my joke is I maxed out at emailing. So the idea of a website was quite challenging to me. So I just made things and, you know, sold them to people that were interested. Eventually, a friend of a friend had a store. She wanted some. Another friend opened a cafe in Greenpoint. He wanted aprons and some tote bags. So that's how it began and grew in
Yeah.
the early stages. And then the store I opened 8 years ago, after more or less 8 years ago, after I moved back from New York. I lived in New York City for 20 years, moved back to the Jersey Shore, and opened the store right away.
What was the decision to open the store like for you?
So that was it wasn't it wasn't like a dream that I had. I never dreamed of having a boutique or having a store. And so that also happened quite organically and kind of accidentally.
Okay.
When I left New York City, my goal was to work for myself. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I didn't want a boss. I wanted to own my time and own my experience. And I wanted to work alone. I enjoy working alone. I love community and I have wonderful friends, but I enjoy working alone, or now I work with a very small team. That is how I prefer to work. So
Hmm.
that's what I wanted to do. And I knew that my work would involve my textiles. And I mean, basically, I wanted to grow. By that point, I had named Patriae and I had proper labels, said Patriae for my tote bags and different products I was making. So it was becoming more real by that point.
Yeah.
So I was looking for a space here on the Jersey Shore in the Asbury Park area where I grew up and where I live, to house this project. And I was not looking for a store. I was not looking for a storefront at all. In fact, I didn't want a storefront. I'm a pretty private person. I wanted a private workspace, workshop,
Oh.
storage space, just place where I could create, where I could hire a seamstress or a tailor to work. I didn't find that space. That's a challenging type of building or location to find around here for the right price,
Mhm.
at least.
Yeah.
So instead, I found a storefront that was available. The price was right. It was on the periphery of the Asbury Park downtown area, which was a very different scene 8 years ago. A lot
Okay.
has changed since then here. At the time, my brother and my father had a shop in town. They were kind of retail pioneers in the area in Asbury Park downtown. They opened a store there called Sweet Joey's. Um, let's see, about 14 years ago, and they've since closed. But at the
Okay.
time, my brother still had this, and my father still had the store. So I was leaving their store and a couple blocks up, on a block where um, nothing current was really happening, and where there was no foot traffic. There was a storefront for rent. I saw a big for rent sign. I called and the price was right and everything. So long story short, that's how I ended up with a store. My mother had to convince me that, she thought it was the right thing, that it was a space that could work well for me. And it was. She was right. And it's a space that worked for me immediately. It was the
Hmm.
right space right away. And it remained the right space I was in that storefront for 5.5 years, and it changed dramatically, the way that I used the space. And then just over 2 years now, the same building, I just moved to the corner. The corner space became available about 2.5 years ago. So I upgraded. I took that corner, got
Yeah.
renovated that, and I've been open there for just over 2 years. But when I took the first space, initially I perceived it and arranged it as a showroom, like a small showroom for my textiles and the products made out of my textiles. So just the Patriae original goods and the
Yeah.
antique textiles. And I split the space sort of in half. The front was this like showroom space. And then in the back, I had some sewing machines, and that was my workshop. And I had a few, well, one at a time, but I worked with a few different seamstresses and tailors. And I myself was doing the majority of the sewing still, but had some help. So that's how it began. And then it evolved from that space that I described, which if you scroll back on my Instagram feed,
Yep.
6, 7, 8 years, you'll see visual of what I'm talking about. Yeah. So then I started adding little objects here and there, other things that I'm into. I've always collected vintage clothing, and sold here and there, sold vintage clothing and objects. And when I was going to Slovakia, I always bought pottery and jewelry and different things. So I slowly added other things that were of me and of my culture, and worked well with the textiles aesthetically. And one thing led to another. And next thing you know, I have a full boutique with new and vintage clothing and objects and home goods and all kinds of things. So yeah, I follow the path of what worked, because in addition to this being, it's a passion project for sure, but I'm a pragmatic person, and I needed a job too. I needed this to work for me. Yeah. I needed this to work for me as a job, as a career, not just as, beautiful
Fun.
space to present. Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah,
it is nice when the things that we find fun become our jobs, right? Like I think that's the dream for most people, is that something
it
that they're
is.
passionate about can turn into their livelihood. And
And
that's
it's,
pretty amazing.
yeah, yeah. And it's certainly my dream. It was my dream, and it remains my dream. And, I say, sometimes people walk in my store, people that I encounter, often younger people, often younger women, they say,
Yeah.
"Oh my God, that's my dream job," or "You have a dream job." And I agree, this is my dream job, but a dream job is still a job, and I
Yeah.
need my job I need to pay my bills, and I need to, I need it to work. So
Yes.
yes, it's a dream job, but
It's still a
I,
job.
it's still a job, and that's fine. I like working. I like my job. I like working, and because it's a dream job for me, I don't mind working as much and as hard as I do. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think there's so much to be said for that. Okay, so I think it sounds like so many things just kind of fell into a natural like place, which I love hearing
Mhm.
stories like that. Were
Mhm.
there any early hurdles or
Mhm.
anything, when you were really establishing Patriae as a
Yeah.
brand, where there was
Yeah.
labels, there was things happening, it was coming
Yeah.
together, that it wasn't just a hobby of you making
Mhm.
totes for yourself and friends.
Mhm.
Anything come to mind that was like something
Mhm.
that you had to
Yeah.
jump over? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's a thing that remains a challenge for me to this day. And it's going back to a couple questions ago, and I said I'm a Luddite. And so anything digital, anything online is really intimidating for me. I'm a
Yeah,
really hands-on person. I spent my life learning how to perfect how to sew and knit and make pottery and work with my hands, and and study school. I enjoyed school, but I never became proficient at using computers, and even the language surrounding it is still a mystery to me today. And at some point, I had to accept that, right? Like I can
yeah,
become good or proficient at some things that I want to become better at, and others I can't. And this one, I simply can't. It's a language that I cannot, and also I'm not that interested in learning,
that's fair.
so
Yeah.
I accept it. However, it's a challenge for me. I wish that I could, tweak my own website, or do some photo editing, things like that. um so that's been my biggest hurdle. So it took me a long time to have a website in general, and
Okay.
then a functioning website. I guess for a while I had, a few variations of semi functioning websites, and I had
Okay.
very talented people create websites for me that I then didn't maintain very well. So finally now in the last couple of years, I have a website that I'm very proud of, and I am doing a better job of attempting to make it work, and making it work. But that is still my biggest challenge, even if I have my right-hand lady, Molly, at the shop and in my business in general, when she's away or not available to print out shipping labels and, process online orders. That's like a moment of anxiety for me. Yeah. And it's held me back. It has held me back business wise, and I accept it.
I think, one of the things that really impressed me, with you was how responsive you were. And we connected over Instagram,
Mhm.
and I can't say that it's common, or I message a lot of people and they might
Yeah.
respond, but it's not like you were on top of it, which I was like,
Yeah.
she's on top of it. Like
Thanks. Yeah.
she has
Thank
got
you.
it dialed in. And I appreciate that a lot. So I think it's also important to commend yourself at the
Thank
things
you.
that you are doing really well as it relates to tech. And it's good to also know the things that you just don't really want to do,
Yeah.
because I think as an entrepreneur, there's many entrepreneurs that have identified the things that they'd rather not do and outsource them, or figure out, what ways they can optimize how they're working to outsource, or
Yeah.
outsource is a big word, but
Yeah. Yeah.
where they can fill those gaps, basically, so it's not painful, so I
That's right.
think
Yeah.
it's fine. I think it's good that
Yeah.
you know that about yourself. That's
Thank you.
it's a good
Yeah.
thing to own. I don't want
Thanks.
to do
Yeah.
this, and
I,
someone else can help me with it, and that's
Thanks.
fine. And also, just to your point of like shipping labels, I think it goes again to um how good you are with customer service. People will wait, Babs. You know what I mean? So it's like, if
Thank
you are
you.
messaging, hey, like I'm gonna ship in a couple days. I think as
Mhm.
long as you're communicative, which you are,
Mhm.
and honestly, if someone were like, I need this tomorrow, I also feel like you'd figure out how to do
I'd
it if
make
someone
it
was
happen.
actually,
Absolutely.
yeah,
I'd make it happen.
yeah,
I value people's time. I have enough life experience prior to being an entrepreneur myself and running my own business. I worked for people for a long time before I did this. I value people's time, and yeah, I just get it done. So thanks, because that kind of compliment is meaningful to me.
happy to do it. Okay. So, the Patriae collection, it obviously has a strong connection to your homeland's heritage, traditional handwork. How do you ensure that sort of that essence is preserved in all the
Mhm.
pieces that you create? And
Mhm.
what does that cultural connection mean to you
Mhm.
personally and professionally?
Mhm. So that connection it's really inherent in my products by nature of how they're made, because so the fabrics themselves are hand woven, homespun, hand woven historically, and these are my predecessors, ancestors, direct ones, and my, pretty much every woman historically in Eastern Europe that was
Yep.
doing this work, and then sewing from these textiles. So in my process of production manufacturing, um, I I am doing the sewing. I'm doing the handwork. So all of our products, tote bags, pouches, pillows, everything we make from these antique textiles is handmade on a sewing machine, with modern tools, but handmade by 90% of the time my mother and I. And
Okay.
once in a while, we have one of my mom's friends helps us out, a seamstress from Portugal. She helps us out in my sewing studio. I refer to my sewing studio as my factory, which it is. It's just a factory of 2.5 people. So, so I spend uh, the days that I'm not in the shop, I spend my days working in my little factory, making things by hand from these
Hmm.
textiles. So that the process of hand making, crafting is a continue. It's not. It doesn't just. It connects me to my ancestors and my culture of making things by hand, but it's more than connecting me, it's also, it's like an evolution of it. You know, it's like the modern variation of what my grandmother was doing as a child 80, 70, 80, 90 years ago, and her mother was doing before her, and every woman in their village was doing for, you know, generations prior to that. So it feels right. It feels meaningful and it feels natural. And that is, if I could do that all day, every day, that's what I would do. That's the best part of my work for me, the most enjoyable part of my work.
I love that so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as the business has grown, what are some of the key learnings about maintaining? So, you know, because everything is so handcrafted, and because you, I think, have an expectation of honoring, you know, your heritage and everything
Mm-hmm.
else, how do you maintain the quality and the integrity as things kind of get busier?
Yeah. Um, I sort of, I, I'm not that interested in growth in the way that would like traditionally be expected that I would be interested in growth. Yes, I'm interested in, you know, hopefully my sales are a little better each year and I can give myself a little raise every once in a long while. But
Yeah.
I'm not interested in having another store. I'm really not interested in growing beyond the walls that house my business now, my store, and separately my sewing studio, which is a few blocks away from my store. That's it. Everything is contained in those two spaces, and they're both, you know, my store is maybe 800 square feet, my sewing studio is 400 square feet. That's enough for me.
Yeah.
I don't really want to, I guess for me there's not like an option to change. I don't know a different way of doing things. I can come up with ideas about different ways of doing things. They don't interest me. This is how I want to work. This is why I work for myself. And like I said, my favorite part of my work is working with my hands in my sewing studio with my
Right.
mom quietly. I don't want to say slowly exactly. I mean, by industry standards, we're about as slow as you can get, but you know, often it feels like we're rushing, you know, as fast as we can, make as much as we can. Um, you know, at most I would add a seamstress or two if I needed more help within my studio. But um, so yeah, so that defines the way that I work. Yeah.
And it also, I think, ensures that you're keeping the standard or, you know, like what you expect in terms of quality and the integrity of the products.
Yeah.
Um, because you can pay
Mhm.
close attention to
Yeah.
things, it's like it's just one of those things where it will always be
Mhm. Mhm.
just okay. I mean, that makes
Exactly. And
sense.
that's really important to me. It's non-compromisable to me. And in the
Right.
past, before I had the store, there was a period of time where I was using some small factories in New York
Mhm.
City, small um, like sample houses. And you know, it wasn't a terrible experience, but you know, we weren't making them. I mean, the quality wasn't always up to my standards, and it changed the basically it took out that part of my work that's so meaningful to me, you know. So when I moved to Jersey and started this my business here, that was uh I really wanted to integrate that back into my way of working, actually
Right.
making things myself. And it's a lot. Sometimes I work too much because I have to spend some time in the store and I spend time in the studio, but it's worth it to me.
I
Mhm.
love that. All
Thanks.
right. So I think this is an interesting, I like this question.
Mhm.
Choosing to maintain a physical storefront in an era where many businesses are moving online poses unique challenges and opportunities. So, can you share your perspective on the
Yeah.
value of brick and mortar in
Mhm.
today's very
Mhm.
digital age that we're in?
Mhm. Mhm. So we've already touched on, you know, what I guess one part of the answer to this question for me specifically, which is that I'd be absolutely useless running an online business.
That's
Um,
it. You just knew
yeah,
that you're like, well, that's not going to be for me. So
yeah.
it is brick
I
and
mean,
mortar.
I think at that point, I would just do something completely different. I would
Mm,
just have
mm.
like a complete career change. Yeah, it's simply not for me.
Yeah.
So, having said that, I think that there is um, that. So the store creates a place for me to execute my work, it's tangible. It's real. It's tangible. The things in it are tangible. I can arrange things the way that pleases me and all of that. I love that part of my work too. I love working with actual things. It's not just my products, but the products of the different designers and artists and friends that I sell in my store. So I love work. I love things in my store. They're all things that I want to live with. So I love being amongst them and arranging them and making them, making vignettes and making them as giving them as much, like being able to translate their value to clients in my store. So it serves that purpose for me, right? But
Yeah.
also there's a lot of me out there, my age and older, and a lot of my clientele, my demographic are very chic, wise older women, from like my age up and up, all the way up to very old, lovely, chic ladies.
Yeah.
And they're not online, or at least, no, I don't want to say, they're not using computers or the internet, but they might not be shopping online or exposed to as much online shopping as some other people. Um, and they, I find that we have an appreciation for the tangible, and that we have that in common, and so that I've built relationships with those types of clients, some of whom have become friends,
Yep.
that we understand each other. We need to be there to feel it, to see it, to try it on, to smell
Right.
it. Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's kind of cool to have, I mean, depending on what the business is, sometimes having a brick and mortar, um, it adds an element of community, right? So there's inherent things that you can do with that. So it is a nice way to inject just that, right? Where it's
Mhm.
not one of the big box stores, or
Yeah,
it's something that has its own
yeah,
identity and
yeah,
personality, and something that can bring people together. So I think it's really cool. I mean,
yeah. I
I
do too.
enjoy finding those little gems, right? Because I think
Yeah,
they're like
yeah,
little gems. I
yeah,
love them.
yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
this is an interesting question too, because I think for someone like you, I'm curious your perspective. So, our world today obviously is increasingly dominated by fast fashion, and Patriae, it stands out for its commitment to sustainability and quality. How do you address the challenges posed by, fast fashion trends? What is your message to
Mhm,
consumers that are navigating the choices between these things?
mhm.
What is the Babs opinion of this?
Yeah. So all that I can do, I'm not going to change the industry. I myself am not, I'm not going to have an impact on the industry at large. But what I can do is present an option, a different option. In our community, I think that I present um, an option for shopping sustainably. Other
Hmm.
stores do too. We're lucky in our area. We have a community of shops that are kind of like-minded.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that's the best that I can do, is present people with options, and options at all price points. Vintage clothing is sustainable. It's probably the most sustainable thing that that I sell in one sense, um, and and it's important for me to have all price points represented in my store. So sometimes, my store can present a little bit, I don't want anyone to be like intimidated or feel like I just have like higher price points. In our area, it's like, it's a little bit, presents maybe a little bit more upscale,
Okay.
but it's not. I have all price points from $6 all the way up to a $4,000 painting by my dear friend Jill London. So at all price points, you can shop sustainably. Sustainably, as in um, uh, like a way of acquisition, but also in terms of materials and quality of goods too.
Yeah, you're creating the ripples, right? It's an avenue for people to be exposed to what else is possible, right? So, and
Yeah,
I think
that's right. Yeah.
anybody that has a curated boutique where you can tell it's thoughtful and there's a story to it, I think all those things together, it's that ripple effect. Slowly, people
Mm-hmm.
are becoming more aware of, where they need to
Mm-hmm.
put their money. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So you use, or I should say, there is a use in some of your stuff, handwoven hems, linens. Obviously, that
Mm-hmm.
speaks to sustainability. But
Mm-hmm.
also, there's like a connection to wellness,
Mm-hmm.
since, there's some nature components to this.
Mm-hmm.
How do you communicate some of that to your customers, right? So, like in the
Mm-hmm.
times, I'd say the connection between sustainability and wellness overall,
Mm-hmm.
do people that come into your space, is that felt? Is it obvious, or do you have to work towards kind of
Mm-hmm.
communicating those things?
Mm-hmm. I think it's felt, and there's an example that just happened today. I was in my store earlier today, and a customer walked in, a customer I know, a longtime customer, and we were chatting, and she said, "It always smells so good in here." And we got into a conversation about what that scent is, because this happens frequently. People often comment on how good it smells in my store.
Okay.
And I thought as we were talking about this, usually I say, oh, it's a mix of like all the different candles and home scents and incense and different things I carry. But then I realized that I think it's also a blend of all the natural materials in the store. So natural wood, all of the wood tables in my store that were built by my friend Jason Stump they're just oiled, naturally oiled. I used, better, healthier building materials. The textiles are obviously all natural. The antique hemp and linen textiles are organic naturally. There were no farming chemicals in Eastern Europe at that time. Almost all the clothing I represent is cotton, linen, natural materials, hemp, wool. So I think it's collectively all of that. So that's one of the first things when you walk into the store is the smell of all of these natural materials mixing together. Um, so I think it sets the mood, sets the
Right.
mood for wellness, for natural wellness, all natural wellness. Um, and then, of course, all the products that I carry, all of the apothecary and home scent goods are all completely natural. And I have them in one portion of my store, and I always talk people through that. My candles are scented with just 100% essential oils as opposed to toxic scents. So I think it pervades every aspect of the
Yeah.
store, and people understand that through multiple senses, through their eyes, their nose. Yeah.
That's so awesome. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, got to go to the store. Got to experience
You
the store.
have to.
Walk into, here's what wellness smells like right there in Asbury Park.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to know what wellness means to you, and then I have a
Mhm.
second part of that question. What does wellness mean to
Mhm.
Babs?
Mhm. Personally, for me, wellness is and this is a little cliche, but a balance, balance in my life. And I mentioned earlier, I work a lot. When I'm here, when I'm in this area, when I'm in proximity to my store and my studio, I work a lot. And as you yourself are an entrepreneur, as you know, and probably a lot of the listeners, it doesn't stop. There are so many ways that people can contact me,
Right.
um, and so it doesn't stop. This is not a complaint. I chose this for myself. I like my business. I like most of the people that I communicate with. So this is not a problem, but it's a lot. So the way that I find balance is that I travel, I go away. I have to personally, physically leave the area of my store and go far away in order to uh, feel a sense of real like letting go,
Mm-hmm.
even like a different time zone that helps with it too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to I travel throughout the year except for in the summertime. My business is semi-seasonal. Our high season is in the summer, so I'm always here and available in the summertime. In the wintertime, I stay open 4 days a week, but it's pretty dead around here as coastal New Jersey community. So I'm able to leave for longer trips. So this is, and it felt some years ago when I was first starting out my business, something I could do because, and even back then I could even close for a month because Asbury was quieter then, the business was smaller, so I could do that. But it felt quite extravagant. Now I've changed my mindset about that. Now it's absolutely necessary. It's necessary for my physical health, my mental health. This is something I have to do if I am to be a good employee to myself, employee of my own business, a good leader, business person. I need to do this. I need to decompress. So, and when I travel, I engage in the things that I love, that nourish me. And those, I guess, those are like the fundamental elements of wellness for me. So being in nature, being in the heat, I love hot tropical environments, surfing. These are the things that my travel revolves around.
Yeah.
And that's the core of wellness for me, is engaging in those things, preferably far away from my store, my business.
Okay, so then when you're not traveling, so when you're home, how do you maintain wellness? So like what is your morning like do you have any wellness non-negotiables when you're not traveling? So like what are the things that get you up and moving to start your day in New Jersey that make you feel like if I don't do this, maybe it's not going to be as awesome of a day as I thought it could be?
Yeah. So I'm a pretty simple person when it comes to these things and into my routines. And I've reached a point in life where really basic things are non-negotiable. So sleep is absolutely non-negotiable. Good quality sleep, diet, what I consume is important to me. I don't cook much, but I have a lot of my boyfriend does, and my mom, I'm lucky. They cook amazingly good food for me. But I have a lot of great options around here of food I can acquire. And so yeah, just the really basic things. I don't have like a beauty routine, I'm very simple when it comes to that. But yeah, sleep is the big one. And a lot of the way that I schedule my day, my social activities, my travels revolves around making sure that I can sleep well. That really,
Sleep is important.
and yeah, that's the
Super
number one
important.
thing. Yeah. And then now recently, as I'm, you learn more things about the way that you function and the way that all humans function.
Yeah.
So I try to view sunlight in the morning and, do simple things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge. I think
I'm
all those
learning.
things
Yeah,
add up. And
exactly.
those things help with your sleep too. So, there's a lot
Exactly.
documented about that,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
It
Comes
all
back to
plays back
sleep.
into sleep. Sleep,
Mhm.
sleep, sleep. Okay,
Mhm.
so based on the things that you do for your own wellness, how do you think those things play into navigating challenges or obstacles that you might face in running your business? Like basically if you're well rested, you can conquer anything. Is that the is that the idea? Like as
Yeah,
long as that
as basic as that is exactly
Yeah.
the idea.
Okay.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
exactly the idea. And then also the balance of my personal life to my professional life, because part of my professional life is kind of like it's public. I'm public facing,
Yeah.
and I see, if I'm in the shop, I see, many people throughout the day. So balancing that out with my own personal life, which is in which I'm more private, spending time alone to balance out like I like both. I like to kind of like function on the extremes when it comes to that. So I love to be around people and have conversations and learn. And I love live music and to go to concerts and dance. I love that. And I really have to balance that out with solo time, just with my boyfriend and also simply just alone. And I enjoy that time. I look forward to my time alone. That's another absolute non-negotiable in my life. And
I hear here.
just great. To some extent, it's one of the things that in recent years I've structured my life around, is making sure that I can have that really cherished, valuable, meaningful solo time. Yeah.
It's very important, I think.
Yeah.
I'm fully aligned with you on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so shifting gears a little
Mhm.
bit. Asbury Park, I haven't been there, but
Mhm.
I've been told it has a very vibrant arts scene.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, how has being part of that community influenced Patriae's evolution
Yeah.
and perhaps even influenced more of your own wellness approach?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that I was, I was by far not one of like the first businesses that came in that really like had an impact on Asbury in the last 20 years. Let's say, I've had the
Okay.
shop for 8 years, and there were all kinds of businesses that really shaped like the cultural path of Asbury Park prior to me. But 8 years is 8 years. And those 8 years, I feel like the businesses that have been around, thinking of stores and art galleries, music venues, we've all evolved together. We've had to evolve. The town has evolved so much. So it feels really good to know that you're not in it alone, and to have people, other small business owners as a sounding board. I'm good friends with the surf shop in our town, Glide. They're great friends of mine. We are in touch almost daily, just as as friends, helping each other through, friends who are small business owners, comparing notes, all of that. So I have a few businesses like that I'm aligned with in that way in town. And that's been really great. It's so helpful, especially when you work alone or with such a small team, and so helpful to have a community of other entrepreneurs to get you through.
Yeah,
And
support
then
system.
the
Yeah.
other side of that culturally is that one of the things I love about Asbury, I love visual arts, but I love music. I'm a huge music nerd. I love live concerts. I love recorded music. I love documentation of music, live music. And so Asbury has an extremely rich history of that. So on any night of the week or any day of the week, I have access to like multiple amazing live shows if that's what I want to do. Or we have Danny Clinch is an iconic music photographer who has a gallery in town, and he has different shows and live music there. We tons of music venues. So this for me, there's all, like I said, there's all other different types of art forms out there in our area, and I love that we have great food and art galleries. But for me, music is the thing. So this also is part of like my wellness program.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When I
Well,
can go
I
dance
think
it off, that is everything to me.
music is wellness, I think, in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
right? Just
Yeah.
it's um
Yeah.
I look forward to having some musicians on the dean's list because I
Oh,
think
that'll
that
be
that's
great. I
a
look forward to that. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a definite thing, right? Music
Yeah.
makes you feel, music helps you process, music helps you express. I mean, there's so much to music.
My chosen medium, I love what I do, but I
Yeah.
really put music on a pedestal. It is above all else, I think, the most healing thing out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're recording it's May 25th today, and today Babs posted well, I feel like it was today's post. Is it Bob Dylan's birthday today, Babs, or
Yesterday.
was that okay, yeah.
Yeah, I posted
So
last night. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, my
so
number one guy.
music is
Yeah,
definitely a through point for you, and I
yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do a quick, this is a surprise because I don't know that I told you that we're gonna do this, but we're gonna do a quick fire. I mean, if you
Okay.
listen to some of the other episodes, you'll know that
Mhm.
this happens. But
Okay.
it's a quick fire, so it's just first thing that comes to mind. Hopefully, I mean, some of these are creative questions, Babs. So just,
Okay.
try and do the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
But it should just be fun. Okay, are you an
Okay.
early bird or a night owl?
Early bird, but only in the last 5 years of my life.
Oh, okay,
Mhm.
interesting. Coffee or tea or both?
Tea, not caffeinated these days. Been drinking
Herbal.
rooibos tea
Okay.
or yeah,
Okay.
in the
What's your
mornings.
favorite color?
Ivory.
Oh, okay.
Off-white.
Favorite cuisine?
Oh, it always goes back to my native cuisine, Slovak food. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm trying to
Meat
think
and
if I've
potatoes.
potatoes. Yeah, meat and
Meat and
potatoes.
meat
Okay.
meat and potatoes, yeah, it's heavy, it's rich, and
Does the
it
job.
comes back to that for me. Yeah.
Does the job. What's your
Mhm.
favorite vacation destination?
Um, a tropical destination with waves that I enjoy surfing. I just got back from an island in Indonesia, and I loved it.
Okay. Which
Yeah.
who is it an island that is one that we know of?
No, I didn't know of it. It's,
Okay.
there's not much to do there, and it took a lot of travel, a lot of time to get to it, and it was
Well
one
worth
of
it.
the best places I've ever been. Yeah, yeah,
Amazing. What was
yeah.
the first job that you've ever had?
Kind of a classic. I worked in an ice cream parlor in Belmar, New Jersey when I was 14 years old.
I
But
love
at
that.
the same time, I was already making things. I was a young hippie, a young deadhead, and I was making these like patchwork tops and hemp necklaces and selling them in our local Grateful Dead deadhead shop. Yeah.
Amazing. What's the
Yeah.
one app that you can't live without?
For better or worse, Instagram because it keeps the job going.
There you go. What's
Yeah.
the one word that you would use to describe your business journey?
Unexpected.
Okay.
Mhm.
If you could have any entrepreneur as a mentor for a day, who would
Oof.
it be?
I know there's like the perfect person out there, and I can't think off the top of my head exactly who it would be, but I'll say that I often, like, wish I had this person in my life. I say out loud, I've been saying for the last couple of years, which maybe means I should go find this person that I could use a mentor. I could use somebody to, you know, learn from.
If you could hang out with anybody, alive or dead, for a day, who would it be?
Bob Dylan.
Okay.
That one I
Okay.
don't have to think about.
There you go.
I don't know
Okay.
if you'd wanna hang out with me,
Doesn't
but I
matter.
would
It doesn't
that
matter.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
No.
I would appreciate even if he didn't, I would appreciate that's exactly what I would expect of him, and I would appreciate that.
Okay. What's is there a book that has influenced your mindset, be it business or otherwise?
No.
No. Okay, that's
I
fine.
mean, I can't think of one book,
The Bob Dylan memoir.
yeah, I read and I've always read, um, but, more for fun and, yeah, more for fun.
What book has I don't know, left an imprint on you? If you were to say, "Hey, so and so, I recommend this book."
Yeah.
Is there a book?
I mean, this is not a revolutionary answer, but, I think Steinbeck really is the greatest novelist, and I love his novels.
Besides your own, what is another favorite small business?
I mentioned them earlier. My friends have a surf shop in town. That's my surf shop, and it's called Glide here in Asbury Park, 2 blocks down from my store. And not only is it a surf shop, it's a really beautiful store. They carry other things too, and I think it's mm, like one of the other best stores in Asbury. Yeah,
Shout out to Glide. Okay.
yeah.
If you could instantly acquire one new skill instantly, what would it be?
I would like to be fluent in more languages.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. If you could time travel to any period in history, which era would you visit?
Um, I I would travel to 1970 to 1974 so that I could see a lot of my favorite bands live at their during their prime, the Grateful Dead and Ronnie Wood and Faces and all of these
Great
other.
answer. That's a great
Yeah,
answer. I
I
love that
love rock
answer.
and roll.
If you weren't doing this, what else would you be doing?
Well, this is something I think about frequently, and I think about I've already had a few careers, and this might not be the last because I like doing different things and learning different things. But
Yeah.
sometimes I think that a linguist. I love
Oh,
languages, and I think I would love to have been a specialist in a language or multiple languages. Yeah,
I love that.
or a medical field. Sometimes I think that my cousin's a surgeon, and sometimes I tell him our work isn't that different. You know, you're doing much more complicated sewing. But yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
I love that.
Not to dumb down surgery. I have the
No, no.
greatest respect. It's a lot more complicated than making a tote bag.
But I
But
can
I
see the
think
connection there.
you could be a good surgeon.
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah, right. Like details. So yeah,
Yeah,
no, that makes sense to me.
yeah. I'm
Um,
interested in medical research.
I love that. Okay. So like looking ahead, if we think about the next 5 years or where you would like to see Patriae and your business, what does that look like to you?
Honestly, probably not much different than it looks right now. I hope to just keep sustaining what I have. I hope that nothing disrupts that system. I'm happy. I've I don't really need to evolve that much or rock the boat. Things are working, and I hope that I can keep things going like this. Um, Having said that, I don't want to get bored, and but just simply introducing new things to the shop and meeting new people through the shop and figuring out different products to sew. Those things keep it fresh for me. They're little things that are really kind of big things, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great
yeah,
answer.
yeah.
And then what advice would you give to another aspiring entrepreneur?
I think that learning how to talk about whatever it is that you're doing or representing, learning how to communicate about it. In fact, more than that, becoming an expert in your field or an expert in the fields of whatever you're representing. So if you're representing somebody else's product, become an expert in what they are doing or what they want you to know about what they are doing, master your craft, even if that craft is being the agent for these things, or somebody that communicates about wellness. Like, become a master of that and learn how to most articulately and effectively present that information about whatever you're doing so that people trust you. You really gain trust through being an expert.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So that people trust you. I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you were hoping I was going to ask you? Or anything that you want to emphasize that we didn't?
No, I really enjoyed your questions. I mean, you're a master of your craft, and I really value that. Yeah, yeah, truly, they were great questions, and they got me to consider aspects of my business and my life and my path, really comprehensively. I don't you usually, you're busy and you're doing the work, and I work with my hands a lot, and I like to zone out with that. And so I don't have the opportunity to consider these things as deeply as I should sometimes. So
To
thank
reflect.
you for that. Yeah. And
Appreciate you.
I want to backtrack a little bit. I want to give a shout out to my boyfriend's store. My boyfriend has it's a vintage clothing store, collects mostly men's stuff, but they're for everybody.
Yep.
And he's in the same building as I am in Asbury Park. He's a more recent business. He opened just a year ago, and it's the coolest store in town, I think. Set Break Vintage in Asbury Park.
I love that. It's like, wow, I really need to get to the East Coast, like Stat, and see all these cool spots. Like, I feel like Babs, you could probably do a, not that you need more things to do, Babs, but you could probably do like the Babs Asbury Park tour and like, you know, take you all around to see like the cool stores and the cool restaurants and the cool music spots. And people can just like hobnob and, you know, you could probably charge like a pretty good amount just to like be like the, you know, the person showing folks around. Like that could be like, you know, once a summer, you could just like be like, yeah, we're going to do a fun tour. It's only once a summer. So like, and there's only 10 spots. So here's the cost. And I don't know, it could become a thing, Babs. It could be.
And this is literally what I do multiple times this summer. Friends come down and they get the Babs tour.
See, so it already exists. Now you just need to start monetizing it.
And we're only an hour south of New York and an hour east of Philadelphia. So if you ever find yourself on the East Coast or anybody out there, we're super accessible from both cities.
I love that. Okay, please share all your socials. How can people find you? How can people make acquisitions of your amazing goods?
Thanks, Alison. So I do have a website these days, and I even have an online store, believe it or not. And that is patriaestudio.com. I know it's a complicated store name and spelling, but Patriae studio.com. Instagram is also Patriae Studio, as is Facebook. And I'm not as active as I should be on social media. However, I do post on Instagram and put different products on there. And if you visit the online store, we're offering a 15% off your total order special with Dean's List in the discount code.
Dean's List will give you 15% off.
Yep, 15% off. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Everyone rush and make your purchases. That is so kind of you. I love that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison.
Babs, I feel like we have sort of a collection of people where I feel like I'm like fangirling. So I think you're another one that we're fangirling. We're fangirling the Babs, just like making lovely things happen all over the place. Babs, thank you for being on the Dean's List.
Thank you, Alison. Thank you so much for your support. And I really value and I'm impressed by what you do. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And thank you all for tuning into this episode of the Dean's List. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform to stay updated and follow us on Instagram at official_Dean's List and YouTube at It's Official Dean's List. I'm your host, Alison Dean. Until next time.